I managed to save some money working part-time as a cashier at a pizza joint close to our Martinique campus. Our staff was young and friendly, and I knew all our regular customers coming from our university. I had a vibrant social life with loving friends from both Creole and French metropolitan cultures, but was still adamant about leaving that beautiful tropical island behind and conquer my wild jungle dream. I arrived in Cayenne on a hot summer day in August. This time, no landlords came to pick me up, and that's because I intended to go straight to university and ask for a room in the dormitory. Little did I expect to see all offices closed with not a single soul inside the entire quarters. How could that be possible when I just spent months living in its sister campus dorms back in Martinique? Dragging my heavy suitcase out of those premises in the scorching heat of mid-afternoon, I started having doubts about this whole new move, while wondering if the natural element called wind was ever existent in the country. The capital, Cayenne, which is the main city, looked like a ghost town with all its closed stores. I learned later on that it was a traditional custom to take a 2-hour nap after lunch, only to reopen businesses after 3 p.m. The only stores open were the small convenient marts held by the Chinese. As I was walking into one, I stumbled upon an accommodation ad posted on the wall about a young couple looking for a roommate in a house situated right on the same street. I kept staring at it in disbelief and quickly started to walk to the location. The house had an authentic rustic Creole design from the outside. The man welcomed me in and told me that the room was still available. I immediately felt a huge weight lifted off of my shoulders. The same night, we, my new roommate couple and I, had a potluck dinner in the wide terrace downstairs with another friend of theirs who reached French Guiana by foot all the way from Peru. He barely spoke any French and was trying to make it in the country of euros. The next day, I woke up with fever and grogginess. I could barely walk, but I had to reach the pharmacy up the street. I asked for some aspirin and spent the whole afternoon sleeping. Not knowing what bug affected my immune system, I slowly started feeling better, but only a day later, the same roommate asked me to pack up my suitcase and leave. When I asked why, he said that I seemed to come from a wealthy family and that his Peruvian friend was more deserving of their help than myself. So he basically didn't want the money I was offering. He was more interested in doing a good deed by offering a shelter to his poor-looking friend. I asked him to give me a few days to find another place, to which he agreed reluctantly. Life is a series of multiple events and experiences leading us to a higher spiritual growth mindset. Just when you think that you've learned your lifelong lesson, just when it seems like nothing can ever outsmart you, there's always going to be another challenging area calling out for your wits. The trick is to keep moving. Keep that young and vibrant soul of yours shining even in dark times, because that's when you come out even more radiant, by refusing to step backwards towards darkness. You have a strong belief in yourself. You get an intuition that you're not alone. You know you're surrounded by your angels. You have that ability to get up and fight for your survival. It's coming out of your solar plexus because you deserve to be happy in this life, and you have no other choice but to be happy. Just like that bird who chirps in the morning. It's his mission to do so, and it doesn't question it. It's your mission to be happy in this short transition called life. Rejoice, for your soul is eternal. So I found a place to stay for a little while, and another place to stay, and another one, each one better than the last one, until I finally settled down with a couple of surfers friends 1 minute walk from the beach in Remire-Montjoly, a very pleasant suburb of Cayenne. I was studying towards my bachelor's degree of protection of the environment, and most of my classmates were coming from metropolitan France. We had to do several field trips in the rainforest where we would sleep in hammocks and hear the Amazon bats shriek wildly when flying low around our camp, or venture around swamps under the wide starry sky on traditional long tree trunk pirogues, amazed by those massive adult caimans that would sleep with their eyes closed, already aware of their kingdom status in that environment, unlike the young ones which out to keep their eyes open, preventing any potentiality of being attacked. There was once this research professor who wanted us to explore the forest tree canopy by climbing up a 50-meter tall ladder. At the top, there was a flat square area where a few of us could sit down and watch a 360-degree view encompassing the stunning canopy trees. The professor was very passionate about the topic, and all I could think about was, could we possibly have this course on flat ground? I've never fully realized my fear of heights until that moment. On that particular field trip, one of my classmates was amazed by my stoicism from not producing any reaction to standing by a black snake once on the ground. I haven't noticed any snakes, and I told her, well, I am also amazed by your faculty of not saying anything to me while standing next to a long black snake. My life at that point was filled with adventurous fields in the jungle, scientific studies, initiation to skimboarding and longboard surfing with my very popular beach bum roommates, and working part-time waitressing in various restaurants to make ends meet. One of the restaurants I served in, called Le Casbah, was a Moroccan restaurant whose owner was French and whose chef and only cook in the kitchen was from the Creole island of Haiti. The food on the menu was supposedly Moroccan, with all famous tagine names and dishes, but the taste was somewhat tropical. Approaching the beginning of our university's second term, we were asked to do an internship lasting 3 months in the topic of our related environmental studies, and I chose to do a field research with a beekeeper on the different tree species pollinated by Amazon bees. So I packed my bags and headed out to the town of Cinemari, less than an hour of drive away from Kourou, home of the European Space Agency and rocket launch site. If Cayenne felt like a ghost town in mid-afternoon, Cinemari felt like that the whole day. The French beekeeper was kind enough to recommend me to a widow lady friend of his who lived in a huge property outside of town where I could stay for the duration of the internship for free. She was a very welcoming lady who's been living by herself since her husband died flying his own light aircraft. She had a hen house of 12 hens and 1 rooster. She gave me a tour of the house, and I pointed at a huge painted jar upstairs, complimenting it. But my feelings soon shifted into fear after she once found an incredibly long snake hiding inside. A combination of being in the middle of nowhere and sleeping downstairs in a bedroom surrounded by a wide mosquito cover screen window with no lights outside and with strange sounds had me squeeze my eyes shut every single night and wish for the day to break. Every day I had the privilege to be awoken by a very loud natural alarm clock at the crack of dawn, the proud rooster, and watch the massive almighty sunrise on the horizon right from my bed. One day, the lady came up to me asking me if I had seen her hens. She said that she was on the phone the previous evening with her friend who agreed to come and take her hens to the slaughterhouse because she no longer wanted to take care of them. But when the friend came over, they were all gone. All the hens suddenly disappeared from the hen house except for the rooster. She was at a loss trying to figure out how they could have vanished since no one was around to open the hen house door. Animals do have a sixth sense. They can detect vibrations. They felt that something bad was going to happen to them and listened to their inner intuition. They didn't question its authenticity like humans do. They instantly obeyed the invisible message. My routine consisted of waking up at sunrise, accompanying the beekeeper to his different apiaries dispersed around the bush landscape, then going back to his property and help him out with the honey extraction and analyzing the different pollens in the National Center of Scientific Research of Kourou. As an avid lover and consumer of honey, I was enjoying every bit of the experience. The honey was quite liquid in texture compared to my country's due to the constant precipitation affecting the different soils and tree species in French Guiana. Then came a day when the beekeeper and his family have asked me to stay in their bed and breakfast lodge, adjacent to their house, and tend to their hens and their donkey, Marguerite, while they were away on vacation in France for about a month. The wooden-colored guest house was very pretty, and I was very pleased with their offer just so I can get away from the cold vibes of my downstairs bedroom. So every day I would wake up and open up the hen's house to collect their eggs, and I knew they didn't like the idea of me walking into their den to steal their eggs from underneath their warm bottom, which was used to nest their future offspring. You don't need words to understand a language. Our first universal language is vibrational and energetic, and it is much more authentic than any elaborate words. For weeks, I was so used to living around animals, completely immersed in wild nature, the closest neighbor being over 1 mile away, that I forgot all about humans and could even impersonate the loud scream of an equatorial era parrot, walk and cluck like a hen, and have endearing feelings for my confidant, Marguerite, the donkey, while brushing her entire body fur and tail. I was living in the best of worlds until one day, a young friend of the beekeepers pulled into the driveway and said he was asked to occupy the owner's house while they were away. He brought his Brazilian girlfriend along with him and quickly settled down. That same night, I was awoken by the most frightening thunder sound I've ever heard from an extremely close lightning strike which hit the ground about zero point 0.5 miles away from my guest house and made me jump up and scream my guts out. A few days later, we all went out to town to grab a bite at the local pizza place. We were the only ones sitting at a table, and while waiting to be served, there came a man in his late 20s greeting the young couple whom he knew well from a while ago. He just kept standing there with a very disturbing attitude, where he would, for what seemed to be hours, pick up our cutlery one after the other and put it back on the table, then chit-chat for a bit and repeat the same process over and over. But no one seemed to really mind, until I objected and asked him to stop, to which the young guy staying in the beekeeper's house asked me to understand and have some empathy for him, because he wasn't used to be this way. But since his family kicked him out of the house because of his crack abuse, he is now homeless and lonely. His uncanny behavior and my zero knowledge on crack conflicted my brain and made me want to stay away from him even more. But to my shock and surprise, he walked back with us to the car, and I tried to sound the alarm, but the couple thought they were doing a good deed. Soon after we parked in the driveway, the crack fella got into an argument with his friend, and next thing you know, he broke his glass beer in half and started chasing after him around the property and outside of it. His girlfriend and I ran into my guest house, locking ourselves up in high panic mode. We stayed in there for hours until her boyfriend came back, telling us that he managed to lose the crack man who went to the 2-mile-away neighbor trying to break into their property. I stayed up the majority of the night, thinking he might come back. Thankfully, he never did.